Welcome, and thank you for tuning in. If you enjoy the video, we invite those of you who haven't yet done so, to like, comment, share, subscribe, and click the notification icon, to be notified when the next video is uploaded. Without much ado, and in Max Dive Bomb Verstappen style, let us dive straight into our post-race review of the Hungarian Grand Prix, to highlight all the takeaways from this action-packed race, that was full of incidents from lights to flag. Let us start off by congratulating the aptly named Oscar Piastri, for winning the Oscars for the Driver of the Day, along with his hard-fought and well-deserved maiden victory. With his brilliant reaction off the lines from P2 on the grid, he went into turn 1 lying abreast of his pole-sitting teammate, and his busy mate, to lead coming out of the turn. In so doing, he added his name to the growing list of drivers, who have bested the dive-bombing Max Verstappen in close combat. He controlled the early part of the race from the front, until the team pitted his teammate first to protect him from a charging Sir Lewis, and in the process allowed him the advantage of the undercut. The team duly reversed this advantage at the end, to grant Oscar his deserved victory, and provide one of the main talking points of the race. Why did McLaren, heading to a comfortable 1-2 victory, order Max's busy mate and closest rival, to yield the lead back to Oscar, thereby denying him the opportunity to close the gap to the runaway leader by 7 points? Can McLaren and Lando Norris really afford to give away 7 points to Verstappen? The same Verstappen, who just 2 races previously, was reckless or ruthless enough to cause a collision in Austria, as Lando attempted to overtake him and close the championship gap? The same Verstappen, who tried to collect his busy mate after the collision, just in case he was unable to continue, and his busy mate was? The same Verstappen, who was able to continue while Lando was forced to retire, and thereby extended his championship lead by 10 points. This is the person that McLaren were generous enough to gift another 7 points. Perhaps they have been asked to continue running shotgun for Max, as they have notably been doing since 2021, and particularly after Abu Dhabi. Perhaps they have been told that they will be allowed to get away with exceeding the budget cap, to close the gap on the similarly protected Red Bull, provided they toe the company line, and continue protecting Max? Why else would their loud protests after Austria have evaporated into thin air? Why else would they reverse their driver order, when the team would still walk away with maximum points? Ironically, all the reasons they gave for asking Lando to give up the lead, are the same reasons they should have given Oscar for staying in second place. But what do we know? And in any case, we are not Team Lando, so why should we care? Now, moving on briefly to Lando himself. At some point he will understand that contrary to his lame victim mentality excuse, for reneging on his view of what his busy mate did to him in Austria, there is more to winning a championship than driving a fast car. It is indicative of Lando's lapdog mentality, that in the cool-down room, he chose to take out his frustration on his team's last champion, who is renowned for his good nature, and was just trying to compliment him and his team on having a fast car. His petulant outburst was completely misplaced, and his angst should have been directed at his team and his busy mate. Perhaps, if Verstappen had not unlawfully impeded his race, he would have been able to overtake Oscar on the track, and he wouldn't have been the one who needed the early stop to protect from Sir Lewis. Perhaps, if he was made of sterner stuff, he would have disregarded the team orders, to win the race and argue the toss afterwards. His misinterpretation of Sir Lewis's compliment speaks volumes about his mindset, and the Lewis Hamilton derangement syndrome which permeates through him, his team, and his busy mate. But then again, what do we care? He is getting his just desserts for being a lapdog. Interestingly enough, his teammate and race winner has nothing but respect for Sir Lewis, who he is looking to emulate. Make of that what you wish. We turn now to Verstappen. Yet again, during a hotly contested race, he enhanced his notoriety for being the most gifted driver in Formula One. It is abundantly clear that without the crooked assistance of the FIA, who keep handing him gifts, he is unable to win championships. Yet again, he has embellished his reputation for being poor and angsty during close-quarters racing. We are unable to recall any instances in which he has come out on top during close-quarters racing. And in Hungary, he lost out to a second-year novice, and that says it all really. Ironically, in his post-race media pen interview, he made the startling admission that he won the last 2 championships because his budget cap-exceeding car was quite a lot faster than everyone else. Of course, we all know that he didn't win in 2021, when he had to engage Sir Lewis in close combat, and needed the outrageous intervention of the FIA to effect the most scandalous theft in sporting history. In the 3-way battle with the McLaren drivers going into Turn 1, he had to exceed track limits to overtake a struggling Lando, and was subsequently forced to give back the position to avoid a sanction that even the compromised stewards could not ignore. Interestingly, he was emboldened enough to chastise his team for jumping the gun, when they advised him to give up the position to avoid the imminent sanction. Perhaps, he forgot that he was not racing against Sir Lewis, as he tried to remind his team that the FIA was on their side. Angsty Max 1.0, who Martin Gopher Brundle tried to gaslight the world into thinking had matured, revealed his true character in all its glory. The foul-tempered, expletive-laden potty mouth that we have come to loathe was on full display during the race, to the extent that his own team had to chide him for being childish. What a surprise! Would this be the person that the Liberty Media owner John Malone fraudulently installed as a champion to encourage younger viewers to watch Formula One? The same media mogul who used his extensive media platform to help install Donald Trump as the 45th president to encourage younger voters to participate in the greatest democracy in the world, and is working actively to install him as the 47th? God help us from the interference of greedy moguls. After losing one close combat with the McLaren drivers including the 2-year novice, Oscar, at the beginning of the race, Malone's anointed towards the end of the race, lost yet another close quarter combat, this time with the greatest of all time. In his customary style, going into the scene of his previous defeat at Turn 1 on the first lap, he dived inside Sir Lewis on lap 63, coming out the loser, yet again. In the first lap incident, he had attempted a doomed overtake on the outside, which he needed the extensive run-off area to complete. This time around, he dived inside at a speed that meant he would cause a collision unless Sir Lewis took avoiding action. There was no way he could have made the turn with his approaching speed, and it was just pure luck that the inevitable collision which dropped him to 5th did not take both drivers out of the race. All the pundits and experts who commented on the collision during the race placed the blame squarely on Verstappen, and fully expected the stewards to sanction him. But guess what? They didn't, and chose instead to take no further action, on the grounds that the victim could have done more to avoid the perpetrator. Classic FIA. As far as they are concerned, all drivers engaged in any close combat with Verstappen, especially Sir Lewis, have an obligation to get out of his way to avoid him crashing into them. With this disgraceful ruling, the FIA have reinforced their reputation for pulling out all the stops to defend Verstappen when he crashes into Sir Lewis. It should be noted that Gary Connolly, who was one of the 4 FIA stewards that made this atrocious ruling, was also one of the 4 stewards, including the notorious Honda dealer Derek Warwick, who found that Michael Masi was entitled to rig the race in Abu Dhabi in 2021. If anyone can find any commentator who did not blame Max for the crash in real time, please provide a link in the comment section. It comes to something if notorious Verstappen apologist like Martin Gopher Brundle is unable to defend him and blames him for a collision that the FIA took no action on. To paraphrase Sir Lewis's bitter rival, who instituted the dirty tactics that Max has extended today, someone should tell Verstappen that there's more to driving Formula One cars fast on the straights. You also have to be able to slow down enough to make the corners. Furthermore, you don't dive inside the driver ahead of you, who will be turning into the corner before you. Nico Rosberg was pretty sure that Max would get a 5 or 10 second penalty for that collision, but ultimately the FIA did not oblige. Surprise, surprise. Verstappen appears to have learnt nothing from the lessons that Charles gave him on the art of cornering in Bahrain in 2022, and Silverstone in 2019, or the one that the McLaren drivers handed out to him on lap 1. Or, maybe it's just that Verstappen is a terrible driver, whose false image has been carefully constructed by an unscrupulous liberty media, protected by a crooked FIA, and nurtured by a corrupt F1 media. Leaving the greatest to the last, we turn now to Sir Lewis, who yet again enhanced his legend, with another scintillating drive. To recall, on the eve of the Grand Prix weekend, his own team had labelled him an outdated driver, whose style did not suit the modern F1 cars. Yet, after what his team had labelled an underperforming qualifying, he went from 5th on the grid to 3rd on the podium, dispatching Max Verstappen and Carlos Sainz along the way. If that is not evidence of greatness, please let us know what is, in the comment section. In the process, he also leapfrogged his teammate, who the team had found to be more impressive, to rise to 6th in the driver standings. If he can do all these things, while underperforming in a tractor, imagine what he will do next season in a flying Ferrari, free from a team that has been actively sabotaging him. Ironically, as he stood on the podium for an unprecedented 200th time, his team chose to mark this occasion on their homepage with a picture of him holding a bottle of Ferrari champagne. Can you believe that? This team that had been backward in celebrating his epic victory at the last Grand Prix at Silverstone, and had waited until the following Monday, and the second edition, to feature him as the headliner, were quick to put up a headline banner this time around. As our regular viewers will know, we have been monitoring and reporting on the Mercedes homepage, so we were astonished to find that within hours of the ending of the Hungarian Grand Prix, they had put up the image of him holding the clearly inscribed bottle of Ferrari champagne. We can't help but wonder why they were so quick this time around. Was it the haste that caused them to use that image? If that's not classic self-inflicted ambush advertising, we don't know what is. In any event, we could not miss this opportunity, hence our thumbnail banner. We suggest that you treasure this image because Mercedes have since removed it as their homepage headline image, replaced it with an image of Sir Lewis's car, hidden the one with the Ferrari bottle away in other pages and cut out the bottle to boot. Wonder why? Don't know about you, but we are enjoying watching Mercedes turning themselves inside out to try and avoid the consequences of their actions. Oh happy days!